Well, can I just add my welcome to everyone this morning. It's lovely to see so many here. The whole idea of this conference rather fascinates me, and I guess that's why we were prepared to close the school for a day to enable this conference to go ahead. The idea of an interactive conference where people can come together and talk about teaching and learning strikes me as, by its very nature, a really important idea, and one that's only made significant by the reality of you turning up and being part of it. So thank you to every one of you for being part of it. As I look back at why I hope this is a good idea to do this conference, I guess I'd need to just make a couple of observations. One is that I've always been rather intrigued by that little relationship between form and function. It's by and large an architectural idea, of course, that idea that out of the activity, the function that you do, the form will emerge. Seems to me to have a relationship to our profession as teachers, the notion of form and function playing a role in it. If you think about what we do, the rest will fall out, if it was so easy. About 20 odd years ago, when technology started to make an impact on our profession, I think there were a lot of people who thought that all we needed to do was, if we introduced the technology, then all sorts of transformative new developments would take place. I don't think that emerged. I think what happened very often was we had an amplification of some fairly terrible teaching approaches. And I can certainly remember going to some conferences and seeing some show-off moments, and some of those show-off moments were simply disappointing in the extreme, because it really showed in very clear terms the inappropriateness of what was being even attempted, let alone achieved. So it's taken us a long while to come to grips with this idea of what interactive teaching and learning is. It's taken us a while to understand how to use technology in the classroom. I think we're still, in many ways, trying to work that through. But I think there are signs of really some good things happening. I'm of the belief that for it to work well, we need ideas. And the ideas need to come and flow from a very large number of people. I think we fall down and will fail if we leave the idea manufacturing to the people who make the technology and people who make a profit from these things. And I'm a great believer in not copywriting really anything at all. I don't like copyright very much. I think it crushes ideas. And I'm a great believer in democratising the whole process of this idea generation. I love the book, James Suwicki's book of The Wisdom of the Crowd. I think it's a beautiful book because in its heart it's essentially democratic, and our profession needs every one of you to feel free to create an idea. Every one of you should feel that you are part of the unfolding narrative and story. And if you don't feel that, then there's something wrong with our administrations, there's something wrong with our ideology that covers off on schools. So I love that book, The Wisdom of the Crowd. It seems to me to say so much about the common sense of our humanity that is shared, that somehow it'll rise above the hubbub of nonsense that can sometimes affect us, the politics that can crush. Yet I also like that Nicholas Nassim's book of The Black Swan, because in The Black Swan you find that sometimes disruptive moments happen, and out of disruptive moments, whole new directions for the world and our careers and our lives and our schools take place. And that if we're not alert to the disruptive moment and willing to go with it in the we fight, well, we're probably destined to be cynical and a little bitter. So somehow I have to mesh together in my own mind the wisdom of the crowd, which is this democratic sense of everyone being involved, and yet somehow the chaos theory unfolding with the black swan arriving on our doorstep. These are our lives as teachers. Our profession has changed and is changing. It's a profession with opportunity, it's a profession with moments that can crush initiative. And it's a profession that needs people to struggle to find their leadership voice. Again, I hope that every one of you comes to a conference like this, not because you want to absorb like a sponge from those who are courageous enough to stand and deliver, but because ultimately you want to be part of the creation of the voice. And as I go back on my journey, I remember in high school we had a history book written by H.R. Cowie. Not a bad book of its time, but one of the things that sits is in the exercises at the back. It had a little moment that said, writing maketh the exact man. Forgive the language that was a bit sexist at the time. But that always was something I would focus on, because it always struck me that I was happy enough to express a verbal opinion, but it's in writing and creating that you become a little more precise. And as you think about being an interactive teacher, if you think about developing your careers, using the technology, developing yourself and being part of the narrative, don't be afraid to put your ideas down on paper, and don't be afraid to enter the publishing. I think that the web has changed our lives profoundly, but it's disappointing if we all look at the web and all we see on that web is something to suck knowledge from. I hope that every one of you, by showing courage of being here, initiative with your career, interest in what is new, I hope every one of you also feels that when you look at that web, you notice that you have an opportunity of publishing. You could make a YouTube clip. Doesn't matter how negative your school is towards interactive teaching and learning, doesn't matter how without support, it doesn't matter how small your budget. Every one of you has an opportunity of publishing and being part of the creative narrative. To turn your back on that because of the obstacles is to deny yourself the opportunity of being the black swan, and it's to deny yourself the opportunity of joining the wisdom of the crowd. So, come to a conference like this not just with the intention of being passive, come with the intent of joining the narrative. But to start with, thank you very much for being here today. I have to apologise in advance. I'm unable to stay for this conference, not because I don't wish to, but unfortunately, and it is a bit unfortunate, I have a requirement to be in Melbourne by about lunchtime today, so I'll need to get a bit of a move on. But I do trust this is going to be a thoroughly satisfying conference for you. I really look forward to hearing some of the feedback from our own staff about this conference at the end. But as an individual, I hope all of you are sitting there saying, I hope I can be involved at a personal level in making a contribution to the unfolding narrative of interactive teaching and learning over the next decade. Thank you very much.